Yo, what's good? This video right here, I'm making it for black people. That's right, black people. You know how y'all black people look at us and say, damn, why is Chico driving that badass truck? Why is Amigo having that badass car? You know how that is? We stick together. Us Hispanics, we work together. We help each other out. As a Hispanic, you know what I have seen with black people? You guys always trying to compete against each other. Who's got the better car? Who's got the better truck? Who's got the better bitch? Always comparing each other's shit. Always trying to fight each other. Always trying to put each other down. Y'all need to work together, like us Hispanics do. That's the difference between Hispanics and black people. That's why a Hispanic starts a business. Most of the time, he's successful because he's not doing it all by himself. He's got help. We work together. Y'all black people need to do that. Stick together. Help each other out. Stop the fucking competing. That's not helping. Peace.
If I had a fucking, if I had $10, let's be realistic in today's inflation and shit. For every time somebody outside of our race made a video wagging their finger in our face, admonishing us, let me tell you about black people, this shit, in comparison to their own race, it's a non sequitur. And I find this guy to be disingenuous and full of shit, and like not even a covert racist. Yeah, I'm gonna call you a racist and shit, okay? Because I can do that shit. I'm black. Alright? I'm black, motherfucker. And you're not. You're some Latin guy. I don't know what you are. I don't know if you're a Mexican or not. I assume you're probably a Mexican and shit. And I want to tell you why you feel the need to do this. This is because you want to be white. You fucking falso, motherfucker, okay? In Spanish, I just tell you, mama mi, puto, okay? They suck my dick, nigga. I called you a whore. Because you guys are a whore for the minority majority and shit, okay? You guys bring your ass over here in our country and shit. And I don't want to go on sounding like no fucking Tariq Nasheed. But you guys come over here because your country's fucked up. You don't have the balls. You don't have the wherewithal to take your country back and shit. To fix the problems you got down there, okay? You got tons of fucking problems over there. But you got your ass jumping the fence over here and shit to our shit. And Whitey likes it because you guys work for pennies on the dollar and shit, and they don't have to really pay you motherfuckers a living wage until you accumulating great numbers, and they, amass, political clout and shit, by supplanting us and shit with their help, ironically. All right, I worked at a ton of places where ICE would routinely come in there and do raids and shit, and check people's fucking papers and shit. Okay, that tells you a lot about this condition in America and shit. They rather cut their fucking nose off than fix their own goddamn country. I got nothing to say about it as a black man. I don't have a political affiliation. I don't feel the need to hear what you have to say about our community and shit. It's none of your fucking business. It's none of your business. I don't know why you're down here and shit. You don't got no business of your own in your own fucking community and shit, Like over there in LA and shit, when all that shit came out with the Brown clan and the other crap, them trying to redistrict, communities and shit to favor Latinos over blacks and shit, and try to run blacks out of the city using economics and shit in the good old boy club, or your version of it, the Brown clan. That's not surprising to me. The entire time I was entire almost 30 years I was over there in that city in California and shit, all I saw was just varying levels of good old boy clubs and shit. You had to be cool with this motherfucker to get in, that and the other. Luckily, my actual voice and shit made people second guess me all the time, and I was able to make a little bit of money and shit. But it just got real tight at the end. It got real tight. It was like, man, they're gonna find out who I am. They're gonna shoot me or something, Metaphorically speaking, it's just like fuck, A lot of times I saw you dudes, brown nosing it and shit. I don't know how you say that in Spanish, but a lot of you motherfuckers are just brown nosed to white people and shit. You're like, hey, we're down with you and shit. I saw a motherfucker stop speaking Spanish and get one of those buzz cuts and shit, like where I worked. Just to be down with the boss who had a buzz cut. He was a cracker. It was a straight cracker and shit. You know, they're both cowards and shit. And they did a shitty job. When somebody's fucking around, racism is old hat to me. I'm Generation X. My parents were pre-civil rights era people and shit. So racism is old hat to me. When I look at nowadays racism in the workplace and abroad and shit, I look at the whole picture. And you guys always talking about how you're better than us and all this shit. And I want to think about that, like clinically and shit. I'm like, well, if you're better than us, why is like this place a fucking dump? All right, why has America increasingly become a gigantic toilet that is stopped up and shit? It ain't got nothing to do with the black community. Okay, it ain't got nothing to do with us and shit. Our situation is vastly different from yours and shit. We stayed here. We didn't go nowhere. We've been fighting for our civil rights so long and shit, and they've been attacking us all the way since chattel slavery. And we know you don't like to hear that because that just fucks with you for some reason. It ain't even none of your business. You shouldn't have a reaction to it and shit. All right, you shouldn't. Like most of the time when I was in, the West Coast, a lot of dicks were asking me questions from outside the community, our ethnic community, about like what black people do, this and that and other. I said, hey, why don't you just take your ass down there and find out? You know. It's a goddamn shame. Everything was a good old boys club. Everybody was climbing over everybody's back trying to get a little piece of something. It's crazy. You could do a lot of shit on the West Coast, man. You could do some incredible shit or some incredibly negative shit, but LA is built on a tiers of codependency and shit. And people with issues, like personality issues. Yeah, I've seen a lot of racist motherfuckers. I worked for some racist motherfuckers. They hated my ass because I was so good at my job and shit. And I don't want to, I hesitate to tell young kings, young black kings this, but like today, in the old days, they should say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and shit. And then in my generation, they say, you have to be this, you have to be so much better than the next person just to get noticed. I want to posit and tell you for the future, my young kings, I want to tell you, you have to be so fucking good that they hate that they need you if you're in the system. But I would rather that you find a way to decentralize our community and spread it far apart so that they can't put all of their fingers around us and shit. And rebuild our communities and shit. And all of the people that buy into the system and everything, you leave them alone. You have nothing to do with them and shit except on a basic level. All right, I mean, interpersonally and professionally and shit. You really gotta think about yourself. It's time. The time of selfishness has arrived, whether we are in the end times or not. You have to maintain a work-life balance that works for you and shit, even to the exclusion of all else. You can buy anything you need out there. Okay, you don't need this bullshit, and we certainly don't need some little cholo telling us how much better his people are than our people and shit. We're not competing with you. We're trying to survive. That's the difference and shit. You guys come over here, you jump the fence and shit, and you come over here illegally and you get jobs and you have fake IDs and all that shit is against the law. And they reward you with benefits, and driver's licenses and all this other shit when you should be deported. Rightfully so, you're not a citizen. Okay, you're not a citizen over here. And when you guys are a citizen, you clump together in big groups and shit, and you gentrify the areas on the low tier gentrification and racism and shit. One time, like, I was going to move into this community when I was much younger, like in my early 30s, and I didn't move over there for some reason. And then I looked at the newspaper and I discovered that several black people, mostly men, had been murdered in their apartments after moving in over there. And then later on, a few years down the line, there was a damn near federal investigation over there because they found out that the gang members over there were killing the black people. They didn't want black people in their areas and whatnot. And I thought, like, man, look at this is America and shit. This is fucking America, man. Even the illegal immigrants, the Latino community, is engaging in like Tulsa, Oklahoma type shit and shit. They're gonna burn you out. They're gonna kill you. A lot of the times, the reason they were having the fucking investigation is because when they looked at the case files, the apartments weren't broken into. Somebody just had a key and opened the door, so they had to get these landlords and shit. And they found a lot of this shit was connected to like street gangs. from back over in their country and shit. And they came over here with this bullshit. It sucks. And some of these guys were gruesomely murdered. And maybe one or two of them had a Latin girlfriend. When you're on the West Coast, just interracial sex is nothing. Every time I hear a black person talking about interracial access, I just roll my fucking eyes. That sounds like somebody is nodding and no. Like they wonder and shit. Like deep down they fucking wonder. And it ain't no difference, okay? Interracial shit ain't no difference. It's just a different color and a different mindset and shit. And a lot of relationships over there are disposable and shit. It's just two ships bumping in the night. Yeah. I never got tired of hearing that. I heard that so much it made me sick and shit. And I had, like, after a while, like in later years before I left, I had this expression on my face that people would start to talk like this guy was talking in this clip, and they would look in my face and shut the fuck up because I got tired of hearing about it. I got tired of hearing about it from the conservative, the liberal, the people. I actually had people apologize to me for slavery individually, in social settings. I always get tired. I was that straight guy in the room, and some drunk white liberal or some Latin person, would come up to me and say egregious shit, and I just stare at them and shit. It's just telling and shit. It's telling us the black experience. You can't tell me nothing, but I can tell you about yourself. Okay, you guys come over here. You brown nose. You lowball, people, so they hire you because you work for a low wage with no complaints and shit, and you're disposable. A lot of times, I can tell you, I worked in tandem with the HR departments of certain places I worked, and sometimes they would initiate an ICE. Yeah, they would call La McGraw, the immigration people, ICE and shit. They would call them themselves because they wanted to just wipe out a bunch of you guys. When you guys start talking about shit like, oh, I got rights and all this shit, they would just call the ICE themselves and shit on the low. Like, this motherfucker had a burner phone. He call ICE in and get rid of whoever he didn't want. And then they just replace you with somebody else. A lot of times they would let you, like, I always saw this like bullshit, like nepotism, like in certain industry I worked in, like it's a lot of Latinos, like once they'll fire somebody, they'll let them bring their family member in, like their teenage kid or their cousin or something. They just plug them right in. Now, black people, fuck no. Fuck no. And then sometimes it makes sad because of the condition of black people. Like, especially on the West Coast, you had niggas showing up to a job interview with a fucking collared striped t-shirt and some shorts on and like knee socks and some Jordans and shit. I'm like, man, what the fuck? You don't wear a suit or nothing? Yeah, we're fucked up as a people. Yeah, we don't need outside, commentary about it. Why don't you mind your own business and live your life? Drive your truck, do your little job, whatever that is, like if construction or some other shit, you guys get the benefits. They give you benefits that's supposed to belong to us. And they're still doing that now. Biden is really shelling out. He's shelling out damn near $1 billion to immigrants and shit. And I'm not just talking about Ukraine. Okay, I'm talking about Latin immigrants and shit. They getting like big ass packages and shit and housing and everything and shit they won't do for black people. They won't even say our fucking name and shit anymore. They won't even say black people. They avoid that like the plague, like all of our other issues that we need and shit. And we really do not need your opinion on things, okay? Whether you have a degree in talking to black people and shit or not. We don't need it and shit, huh, Holmes? Okay? Hasta luego, bitch.